The text message appeared on Adrian Valente's phone at 2:47 a.m. He locked me in the bathroom. Please help. A wrong number from a stranger he'd never met. A terrified woman named Maya Bennett, trapped with a man who wanted her dead. Adrian could have ignored it. He could have called the police. Instead, the most feared crime boss in Chicago remembered the sister he couldn't save, grabbed his gun, and drove into the night to rescue a woman whose voice reminded him why some debts can never be repaid. If you stay until the end of this story, hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far Maya and Adrian's journey has traveled. The phone buzzed against the mahogany desk with an insistence that cut through the silence of Adrian Valente's office like a blade. He didn't look up immediately. At 42, Adrian had learned that most things demanding attention at ungodly hours fell into two categories: problems that would solve themselves by morning, or problems that required bodies to disappear. Either way, they could wait until he finished reviewing the ledger spread before him. The phone buzzed again. Then again. Adrian's jaw tightened. His dark eyes, the kind that made grown men stammer and look away, lifted from the columns of numbers that represented his empire. Money laundering operations through 3 legitimate businesses. Protection rackets that stretched across Chicago's South Side. Gun running that connected him to suppliers in 5 states. All of it documented in code only he and his accountant understood. The phone screen illuminated with another message. Finally, Adrian reached for it, expecting Marco or Vincent with news about the shipment coming through the ports. What he saw instead made him freeze. No. Number. He locked me in the bathroom. Please, help. Adrian stared at the words. Wrong number. Had to be. He started to set the phone down when it buzzed again. Unknown number. Please. I don't know who you are, but he has a gun. Unknown number. He's going to kill me. Adrian's thumb hovered over the screen. Every instinct he'd honed over 20 years in this life screamed at him to ignore it. This wasn't his problem. Some stranger's domestic situation had nothing to do with him. He had enough complications without adding someone else's desperate crisis to the list. Unknown number. I can hear him breaking the door. His sister's face flashed through his mind. 17 years old, hiding in a closet while her boyfriend raged through the apartment. Adrian had been in a meeting. By the time he got the call, by the time he arrived, he was already too late. The image of her broken body was seared into his memory like a brand he could never remove. Adrian's fingers moved before his brain could stop them. Adrian, where are you? The response came immediately. Unknown number. I don't know you. Adrian, I know. Where are you? Address. Now. Unknown number. Why would you help me? Adrian, because I didn't help someone else once and she died. Address. There was a pause that felt like an eternity. Adrian stood, already moving toward the door. His hand found the gun holstered at his side. A Glock 19, familiar as his own heartbeat. Unknown number 2, 847W. Harrison Street, apartment 4B. B. Unknown number, please hurry. Adrian was already out the door, taking the stairs 2 at a time down from his office above the club. The music from below pounded through the walls, bass and bodies, and the smell of expensive liquor, his kingdom, his world. He was leaving it behind for a stranger, based on a wrong number and a memory that wouldn't let him rest. Boss? Marco looked up from the bar as Adrian strode past. Where you? I'll be back. Adrian's voice cut through the question like a guillotine. No explanation. No time. The night air hit him like a slap as he pushed through the exit into the alley where his car waited. A black Audi R8, fast, inconspicuous enough in the dark, and powerful enough to get him across the city in minutes. Adrian slid behind the wheel and the engine roared to life. 2847 West Harrison. He knew the area. Not great, not terrible. Working-class apartments where people minded their business and didn't ask questions. The kind of place where screams might go unnoticed or unreported. Adrian's phone buzzed again as he tore through a red light, the city blurring past his windows. Unknown number. He's almost through the door. His foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The speedometer climbed, 60, 70, 80, through the empty Chicago streets. He wove through the sparse late-night traffic with the precision of someone who'd fled crime scenes and outrun cops more times than he could count. Adrian, hold on. 5 minutes. Unknown number. I'm scared. Something cracked in Adrian's chest. 3 words. Simple. Honest. The same words his sister had whispered into her phone before the line went dead. 4 minutes. He ran another red light, narrowly missing a taxi. The driver's horn blared behind him, but Adrian didn't slow. Couldn't slow. The city passed in fragments, closed storefronts, empty bus stops, the occasional pedestrian who barely registered the sleek car screaming past. Unknown number. He's in the bathroom. Adrian, fight, scream. Whatever you can do, I'm almost there. 3 minutes. Harrison Street materialized ahead. Adrian killed the headlights as he approached, scanning the building numbers. 2800 block, getting closer. His eyes picked out the details automatically. Exits, sight lines, potential witnesses. The tactical assessment was as natural as breathing after 2 decades in this life. There. 2847. A 3-story walk-up with exterior stairs and peeling paint. One window on the 4th floor showed light. Apartment 4B. Adrian jerked the wheel and the Audi jumped the curb, stopping directly in front of the building entrance. He was out before the engine stopped ticking, gun already in his hand, phone in the other. Adrian. Which apartment faces the street? Unknown number, front, right side. Please. The building door was locked. Adrian didn't hesitate. He took 3 steps back and drove his shoulder into it. The frame splintered with a crack that echoed through the quiet street. Inside, a narrow hallway and stairs covered in worn carpet that might have been blue once upon a time. Adrian took the stairs 3 at a time. 1st floor, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. 4B was at the end of the hall. From inside came the sound of splintering wood and a man's voice, rough with rage. You stupid bitch! You think you can hide from me? Adrian didn't knock. He tested the doorknob, locked. Then he stepped back and kicked. The door exploded hold. It flew inward, slamming against the inside wall with a bang that rivaled a gunshot. The apartment was small. Cramped living room with a sagging couch and a television playing some late-night infomercial on mute. Kitchen barely bigger than a closet to the left. And straight ahead, a hallway where a man stood frozen, one hand gripping what looked like part of a wooden chair leg, the other reaching for the bathroom door he'd been battering. The man spun. Ethan Cole. Adrian cataloged him automatically. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. 6 feet, muscular build, wild eyes that showed too much white. High. Definitely high on something. Meth, if Adrian had to guess. The sweet chemical smell lingered in the air. Who the fuck? Ethan started. Adrian raised the Glock and Ethan's words died. The gun had that effect. It was pointed directly at Ethan's chest, steady as stone in Adrian's hand. Step away from the door, Adrian said. His voice was quiet, calm. The kind of calm that came before violence, and men who'd lived rough lives recognized it instantly. Ethan's face twisted. This is my apartment, my girlfriend. You got no... I have this, Adrian gestured slightly with the gun. That's all I need. Step away. For a moment, Ethan looked like he might do something stupid. His hand twitched toward his waistband. Adrian saw the outline there. Another gun. Of course. They always had guns when they beat women. Made them feel powerful. Don't, Adrian said simply. You'll be dead before you touch it. Something in Adrian's eyes must have convinced him. Ethan's hand moved away from his waistband. Slowly, he stepped back from the bathroom door. Good, Adrian said. Now take out your gun. 2 fingers, slow. Ethan's jaw clenched, but he obeyed. He pulled out a cheap .38 revolver, holding it by the grip with his thumb and forefinger like it might bite him. Toss it here. The gun clattered across the floor and stopped at Adrian's feet. He kicked it behind him, out of the room, never taking his eyes or his aim off Ethan. Now sit, against that wall. Who the hell are you? Ethan demanded, but he was sitting, sliding down until he hit the floor. You her brother or something? Because I'm telling you, this is between me and Maya. Maya, Adrian repeated. So that was her name. The stranger who'd texted the wrong number. Is she hurt? That's none of your goddamn business. Adrian moved forward 2 steps, fast. The gun now aimed directly at Ethan's forehead from 6 feet away. At this range, even a mediocre shot couldn't miss. And Adrian was many things, but mediocre had never been one of them. Let me be clear, Adrian said. I don't know you. I don't know her. I don't care about your relationship or your problems or whatever justification you've built in your head for what you were about to do. What I care about is very simple. Is she hurt? Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. She's fine. I was just, Maya? Adrian called toward the bathroom door, not looking away from Ethan. My name is Adrian. Can you open the door? Silence. Maya, he can't hurt you now. Open the door. More silence. Then, the soft scrape of a lock turning. The door crept open 6 inches. A face appeared in the gap, and Adrian's stomach dropped. She was young, mid-20s maybe. Dark hair tangled and wild, but it was her face that made Adrian's finger tighten on the trigger. Split lip, swelling along her cheekbone that would be a magnificent bruise by morning, and her eyes, wide, terrified, not quite able to focus on anything. You texted me, Adrian said, keeping his voice gentle despite the rage building in his chest. I'm here to help. Maya's eyes found him, found the gun, found Ethan on the floor. She seemed to struggle to process what she was seeing. Her voice was barely a whisper. I texted my friend Julia. I must have... Wrong number? Right number, Adrian said. Wrong number. Doesn't matter. Are you hurt anywhere besides your face? Maya's hand rose to her ribs, pressing against her side. The motion was instinctive, protective. Adrian had seen it before. Broken ribs, maybe. Or badly bruised. That son of a bitch, Adrian breathed. Look, man, Ethan started, his voice taking on a wheedling tone. This is a misunderstanding. Me and Maya, we fight sometimes, but... Shut up. Adrian didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. Maya, do you have somewhere safe to go? Family? Friends? Maya shook her head slowly. He knows where my mom lives. My friends. I tried to leave before and he... Her voice broke. Found you, Adrian finished. Okay, new plan. You're coming with me. What? Maya and Ethan spoke simultaneously. Adrian ignored Ethan entirely. I have a place. Safe. He won't find you there. I promise. I don't know you, Maya whispered. No, Adrian agreed. But you texted me when you had no one else. I'm here. I'm offering help. Real help. Take it. Maya's eyes moved between Adrian and Ethan, calculating, trying to make sense of a situation that made no sense. A stranger with a gun offering rescue. Her boyfriend on the floor, for once powerless. If you go with him, you're dead, Ethan snarled. You hear me? Adrian moved fast. 3 steps and he was on Ethan, the gun now pressed against the man's temple hard enough to hurt. Ethan's words choked off into a gasp. Listen very carefully, Adrian said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You're going to disappear, tonight. You're going to pack whatever you can carry in 10 minutes, and you're going to leave Chicago. I don't care where you go. Mexico, Canada, hell. But if I ever see you again, if I ever hear you've contacted Maya, if I even get a whisper that you're still breathing the same air as her, I will find you, and I won't be this merciful a second time. Do you understand me? You can't just... Adrian pressed the gun harder. Do you understand me? Yes, Ethan gasped. Yes, okay, I understand. Good. Adrian stood, stepping back. 10 minutes. Pack. Get out. Your car keys? Ethan pointed with a shaking hand toward a bowl on the kitchen counter. Adrian grabbed them and pocketed them. You can pick them up from the precinct in a week. File a report if you want. Tell them someone stole your car. I'm sure they'll care deeply. The sarcasm dripped like acid. He turned back to Maya. She was still in the bathroom doorway, frozen like a deer in headlights. Do you need anything from here? Adrian asked her. Clothes? Medication? Anything? Maya's eyes swept the apartment and something in her expression hardened. No, nothing. I don't want anything from this place. Then let's go. Maya stepped out of the bathroom fully, and Adrian saw she was wearing pajamas, thin cotton pants and a tank top, barefoot. She'd been getting ready for bed when this started. Wait. Adrian shrugged out of his jacket, a heavy black leather thing that cost more than most people made in a month, and held it out. It's cold. Maya took it with trembling hands and wrapped it around herself. It swallowed her small frame, the sleeves hanging past her fingertips. Adrian kept the gun trained on Ethan as he guided Maya toward the door. She moved like a ghost, silent and insubstantial, her bare feet making no sound on the cheap carpet. 10 minutes, Adrian reminded Ethan as they reached the door. Then I make a call and this place gets torched. Your choice if you're still in it. He wouldn't, actually. Arson was messy and attracted too much attention, but Ethan didn't need to know that. They made it to the stairs. Maya was shaking so hard, Adrian could hear her teeth chattering. Shock, probably. Adrenaline crash. He'd seen it before in soldiers and criminals and victims all the same. Easy, he murmured. One step at a time. You're doing fine. Why? Maya's voice was small. Why did you come? Adrian paused on the second-floor landing. The question deserved an answer, even if he didn't fully understand it himself. I had a sister, he said quietly. She sent me messages like yours once. I didn't get there in time, so when I saw your texts, he trailed off. Maybe I'm trying to rewrite history. Maybe I'm just tired of being too late. They reached the ground floor and walked through the broken door into the night air. Maya stopped when she saw the Audi. That's your car? Yes. Are you? She swallowed hard. Are you going to hurt me? The question hit Adrian like a physical blow. Of course she would ask that. A strange man with a gun had just broken into an apartment and was taking her to an unknown location. For all Maya knew, she was trading one monster for another. No, Adrian said firmly. He holstered his gun, holding both hands up in a gesture of peace. I swear to you on everything I have, I will never hurt you. You can leave whenever you want. Right now, if you want. But I'm offering you safety. Real safety. A place where men like him can't reach you. Maya studied his face in the dim streetlight. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied something because she nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Adrian opened the passenger door and Maya slid inside. He closed it gently and walked around to the driver's side. As he started the engine, he saw Ethan in the fourth-floor window, watching. Their eyes met across the distance, and Adrian's gaze promised every word he'd spoken. Then he pulled away from the curb and drove into the night with a stranger named Maya and a decision that would change everything. They drove in silence for 15 minutes. Adrian navigated through the quiet streets, heading north toward the lake and the part of the city where his world existed. Maya sat perfectly still, staring out the window at the passing lights. She hadn't spoken since getting in the car. You can put on music if you want, Adrian offered. Or heat, whatever you need. Who are you? Maya asked instead. Really? Adrian considered how much to tell her. The truth would probably send her running, but lies had never been his style, and something about this entire situation demanded honesty. My name is Adrian Valente, he said. I run several businesses in Chicago, some legal, some less so. Less so, Maya repeated. You mean illegal? Yes. Like what? Drugs? No drugs, Adrian said firmly. I don't touch that, but I handle other, transactions. Security, acquisitions, problem solving. Problem solving with guns. Sometimes. Maya went quiet again. Adrian could practically hear her thinking, processing, trying to figure out what kind of man she was with. Are you in the Mafia? She asked finally. Adrian almost smiled. The Mafia isn't what it used to be. Most of the old families are gone, or legitimized. What's left is complicated. Let's just say I have significant influence in certain circles. So yes, Maya said, you're a criminal. Yes, Adrian admitted. I am. And you want me to stay in a criminal's apartment? Penthouse, Adrian corrected automatically, then winced. Sorry, yes. That's what I'm offering. Maya turned to look at him for the first time since they'd gotten in the car. Her face was a map of pain, physical and otherwise. Why? She asked. You don't know me. I'm nobody. Why risk anything for somebody like me? You're not nobody, Adrian said quietly. And I told you, I couldn't save my sister. Maybe I can save you. That's not your job. Maybe it should be. They pulled into the underground garage of a luxury high-rise overlooking Lake Michigan. Adrian's space was marked with his name, right next to the elevator. He parked and killed the engine. "This is me," he said. "But Maya, I meant what I said. You can leave. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Police station, shelter, another city, whatever you need. No strings, no debt. I can't take you back to that apartment." Maya looked at the elevator, then back at Adrian. Her hand unconsciously touched her swollen cheek. "How long?" she asked. "How long what?" "How long can I stay?" "As long as you need," Adrian said. "Week, month, year, until you feel safe again." "I haven't felt safe in 3 years," Maya whispered. Adrian's jaw clenched. 3 years? This Ethan had been terrorizing her for 3 years. "Then it's time that changed," he said. "Come on." They took the elevator to the top floor. Adrian's penthouse took up the entire level, 4,000 square feet of hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and furniture that cost more than most cars. It was beautiful and cold and impersonal. Adrian had never thought about that before, but seeing it through Maya's eyes, he suddenly recognized it for the sterile space it was. Maya stood in the entryway, still wrapped in his jacket, looking around like she'd stepped into another world. "Guest room is down that hall," Adrian said, pointing. "Second door, bathroom attached. I'll find you some clothes to sleep in." "I don't understand this," Maya said. "Any of this. Why you're being kind to me." Adrian met her eyes. "Maybe because no one was kind to my sister when she needed it. Maybe because I'm tired of being the villain. Maybe because it's 3 a.m. and I acted on impulse. Does the reason matter?" Maya's eyes filled with tears. She blinked rapidly, trying to force them back. "Hey," Adrian said softly. "You're safe now. That's all that matters." The tears fell anyway. Maya's face crumpled and she wrapped her arms around herself, sobbing with the kind of pain that came from 3 years of holding everything inside. Adrian stood there awkwardly, unsure what to do. He'd faced down armed men without flinching, but a crying woman undid him completely. "I'm sorry," Maya gasped. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to—" "Don't apologize," Adrian said firmly. "You have nothing to be sorry for." He guided her to the couch, and Maya collapsed onto it, still crying. Adrian found a box of tissues and set them beside her, then retreated to give her space. He walked to the kitchen and filled a glass with water, added ice, brought it back. "Drink," he said. "Slow sips." Maya obeyed, her hands shaking so badly that water sloshed over the rim. Adrian watched her and felt something crack wider in his chest. This woman, this stranger, had been living in terror for 3 years while the world went on around her. While he'd built his empire and counted his money and convinced himself he was untouchable. "Thank you," Maya whispered, "for coming, for helping, for everything." "You don't have to thank me," Adrian said. "Just get some rest. We'll figure everything else out in the morning." He showed her to the guest room, a space he'd furnished but never used. Maya stood in the doorway looking at the queen bed with its pristine white linens. "I'll find you something to wear," Adrian said. "Be right back." He went to his own room and rifled through his drawers. Most of his clothes would swim on her, but he found an old t-shirt from college, soft from years of washing, and a pair of athletic shorts with a drawstring. They'd have to do. When he returned to the guest room, Maya was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her bare feet. "Here," Adrian said, holding out the clothes. "They'll be big, but they're clean." Maya took them. Her fingers brushed his, and Adrian noticed they were ice cold. "There are extra blankets in the closet," he said. "Bathroom has towels, soap, everything you need. If you need anything else, my room is across the hall. Don't hesitate to knock." "Adrian?" Maya's voice stopped him at the door. "Yeah? What happens tomorrow?" Adrian leaned against the doorframe. "Tomorrow you rest. We'll get you some proper clothes, food, whatever you need. After that, we figure out next steps. Together." "Together," Maya repeated like she was testing the word. "I don't have anyone who does things together with me." "You do now," Adrian said. And meant it. He left her to change and walked back to the living room. Through the windows, Chicago sprawled below. His city, his kingdom, his curse. He'd built everything on violence and fear and the willingness to do what others wouldn't. And tonight, for the first time in 20 years, he'd used that power for something other than personal gain. His phone buzzed. Marco. Marco. Everything okay, boss? Adrian. Fine. I'll be in tomorrow afternoon. Handle the morning shipment? Marco. You got it. Need anything? Adrian looked toward the hallway where Maya was probably climbing into bed in his t-shirt, safe for the first time in 3 years. Adrian. No, I have everything I need. He set the phone down and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. The liquor burned going down, familiar and grounding. Outside, the first hints of dawn were touching the horizon, purple and gold streaking across the lake. Adrian drank and wondered what the hell he'd just done. In the guest room, Maya lay in the darkness wearing a stranger's clothes in a stranger's home. She should be terrified, should be planning her escape, should be calling the police or someone, anyone. But for the first time in 3 years, she closed her eyes without wondering if she'd wake up to Ethan's hands around her throat. And despite everything, the violence, the fear, the absolute insanity of this entire night, Maya slept. Sunlight cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows like a knife, dragging Maya from sleep. For one beautiful, disoriented moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then the softness of the sheets registered, expensive and unfamiliar, and everything came rushing back. The bathroom, Ethan's fists, the stranger with the gun, Adrian. Maya sat up slowly, her body cataloging its injuries. Ribs screamed in protest. Her face throbbed with each heartbeat. Every muscle felt like it had been put through a grinder. She looked down at herself. Oversized t-shirt, borrowed shorts, bare feet on plush carpet, and tried to make sense of how her life had become unrecognizable in the span of 6 hours. The clock on the nightstand read 11:47 a.m. She'd slept for 8 hours straight, 8 hours without waking in terror, without Ethan's weight pressing her into the mattress, without the constant calculation of how to make herself smaller, quieter, less likely to set him off. Maya stood on shaking legs and walked to the window. Chicago stretched below in brilliant daylight, the lake glittering like scattered diamonds, buildings reaching toward a sky so blue it hurt to look at. She was so high up, the cars looked like toys. From here, the world seemed clean, ordered, nothing like the chaos of her actual life. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Maya? Adrian's voice muffled through the wood. You awake? Yes, she called back, her voice rough from sleep and crying. I'm making breakfast. Well, ordering breakfast. I don't really cook. You hungry? Maya's stomach answered before she could, a growl so loud she was certain he heard it through the door. When had she last eaten? Yesterday morning? The day before? I'll take that as a yes, Adrian said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Take your time. Come out whenever you're ready. His footsteps retreated. Maya looked down at herself, at the borrowed clothes and bare feet, and realized she had nothing else. No shoes, no clean underwear, nothing but what she'd run from and what this stranger had given her. The bathroom was all marble and chrome, pristine as a hotel. Maya avoided the mirror at first, but eventually curiosity, or maybe masochism, won. She turned to face her reflection and immediately wished she hadn't. Her left eye was swollen nearly shut, the skin around it a spectacular purple-black. Her lip was split and crusted with dried blood. A bruise wrapped around her jaw like fingers. She lifted the t-shirt and found more bruises across her ribs in the exact shape of Ethan's boot from when he'd kicked her after she fell. The physical map of 3 years of loving the wrong man. Maya's hands gripped the marble countertop hard enough to hurt. She wanted to scream, wanted to put her fist through the mirror, wanted to go back in time and tell her 23-year-old self to run the first time Ethan raised his voice, before it escalated to raised hands. Instead, she washed her face carefully, brushed her teeth with a packaged toothbrush she found in a drawer, and tried to finger comb her tangled hair into something resembling order. It was a losing battle. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd barely escaped with her life. When Maya finally emerged from the bedroom, she followed the smell of coffee to an open-concept kitchen where Adrian stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what excuse he gives you, Marco. He knew the rules. He broke them. Handle it. Adrian's voice was flat, cold. The voice of a man used to being obeyed without question. And make sure everyone knows why. I want this to be educational. He ended the call and turned, catching sight of Maya in the doorway. The hard expression on his face melted into something softer. Hey, he said. How'd you sleep? Better than I have in 3 years, Maya admitted. What was that about? Work, Adrian said simply. Nothing you need to worry about. Coffee? Please. He poured her a cup from an expensive-looking machine that probably cost more than her car. Maya wrapped both hands around the mug, letting the warmth seep into her cold fingers. In daylight, Adrian looked different than he had in the chaos of last night. Still dangerous, that would never change, but somehow more human. He wore jeans and a simple black t-shirt, his dark hair slightly mussed like he'd run his hands through it repeatedly. Tired lines bracketed his eyes. Did you sleep? Maya asked. Some. Adrian leaned against the counter, studying her with an intensity that made her want to look away. How's the pain? Manageable. That's a lie, but I'll allow it. I ordered food from a place nearby. Should be here in 20 minutes. In the meantime, he walked to a bag on the counter and pulled out a bottle of pain medication. Ibuprofen, take 3. Maya accepted the pills and swallowed them with coffee. The silence stretched between them, not quite comfortable, but not hostile either. Just two strangers trying to figure out the rules of this bizarre new dynamic. I called in some favors, Adrian said finally. Had someone pick up clothes for you. They're in the guest room closet. Probably not all your style, but it's something clean to wear. Maya's throat tightened. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You can't live in my t-shirt forever, though you wear it better than I ever did. Was that a joke? Maya looked at him, searching for the punchline, but Adrian's expression remained neutral. She wasn't sure if he was flirting or just being practical. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. I still don't understand why you're doing this. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, turning his coffee cup in his hands. My sister's name was Elena, he said finally. She was 17 when she died. Beautiful, smart, full of plans for her future. She was dating this guy, Marcus. Seemed nice enough at first. Then he started getting possessive, jealous. She hid it from me for months. Maya's chest constricted. She knew this story. She was living this story. One night she called me, Adrian continued, his voice carefully controlled. Said Marcus was angry, said she was scared. I was in the middle of a meeting with some very important, very dangerous people. I told her I'd call her back in an hour. He paused, and Maya saw his jaw clench. By the time I got there, she was gone. He'd beaten her to death and fled. We found him 3 days later. I made sure his death took considerably longer than hers. The confession hung in the air between them, casual and terrible. Maya should be horrified, should be running for the door. Instead, she found herself understanding in a way that probably said something dark about her own soul. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. So am I, Adrian said. Every day. So when I saw your messages last night, saw that same fear in your words, I couldn't ignore it. Wouldn't. Maybe I can't save Elena, but I could save you. I'm not your sister. No, Adrian agreed. You're not, but you deserve someone to show up, so I did. The doorbell rang, cutting through the heavy moment. Adrian moved to answer it, returning with several bags of food that smelled incredible. Maya's stomach growled again, louder this time. When did you last eat? Adrian asked, unpacking containers onto the kitchen island. I don't remember. His expression darkened, but he didn't comment. Instead, he laid out a feast: eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, pastries, bacon, hash browns. Enough food for 4 people. I wasn't sure what you liked, he said, so I got everything. They ate in silence at first, Maya trying not to shovel food into her mouth despite her hunger. Adrian pushed containers toward her whenever she slowed down, saying nothing but clearly wanting her to eat more. It was strange and intimate and nothing like the meals she'd had with Ethan, where every bite was monitored, every calorie commented on. Can I ask you something? Maya said finally, setting down her fork. Anything. What exactly do you do? You said you run businesses. What kind? Adrian leaned back in his chair, considering how much to tell her. I own a nightclub downtown. Completely legitimate, makes good money, pays taxes. I also own a security consulting firm that provides protection services to people and businesses who need it. And the illegitimate stuff? I facilitate transactions between parties who prefer to avoid legal channels. I resolve disputes. I collect debts. I make problems disappear. You're a mob boss, Maya said flatly. That's a very dramatic way of putting it, but essentially yes. though the organizational structure is much looser than you'd think. No formal hierarchy, just a network of people who owe me favors or fear me enough to cooperate. And the people who don't cooperate? Adrian's eyes went cold. They learned to. Maya should be terrified. This man had killed people. Probably many people. He'd admitted to torturing his sister's killer. He was offering her safety while simultaneously being the kind of person mothers warned their daughters about. But Ethan had been a normal guy with a normal job, and he'd put her in the hospital twice. Adrian was a criminal who'd driven across the city at 3 a.m. to save a stranger. "I want to see my mom," Maya said suddenly. "Let her know I'm okay. She'll be worried when she can't reach me." Adrian's expression shifted, became cautious. "Does Ethan know where she lives?" "Yes." "Then no, not yet. If he's looking for you, that's the first place he'll go. We need to make sure he's really gone before you make contact with anyone from your old life." "I can't just disappear. My mom will think I'm dead." "Better she thinks you're dead than you actually end up dead," Adrian said bluntly. "Give it a week. Let me make sure Ethan took my advice and left town. Then we'll figure out a safe way to contact your mother." Maya wanted to argue, but the logic was sound, even if she hated it. Her mother would be frantic, would probably file a missing persons report, would definitely blame herself somehow because that's what her mother did. Took responsibility for everything that went wrong in Maya's life. "A week," Maya said. "Then I call her, whether Ethan's gone or not." "A week," Adrian agreed. They finished breakfast in a silence that felt heavier now. Maya helped clean up despite Adrian's protests, needing something to do with her hands. As she was rinsing dishes, her phone buzzed in the pocket of the borrowed shorts. She'd forgotten she even had it. The screen showed 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. Her heart stopped when she saw most were from Ethan's number. "Don't," Adrian said, appearing at her shoulder. "Don't read them. Don't respond. That's what he wants. A reaction. He's going to keep calling. Let him. We'll get you a new number, new phone if we need to. But engaging with him now is dangerous." Maya's finger hovered over the messages anyway. 3 years of conditioning screamed at her to check them, to respond, to manage Ethan's emotions before they exploded. Adrian gently took the phone from her hands. "Trust me," he said. "I know men like him. Any response, even telling him to stop, is encouragement. It tells him you're still reachable, still afraid. You want him to lose interest? You become a ghost." He was right. Maya knew he was right. But breaking 3 years of trauma responses wasn't something she could just decide to do. Adrian seemed to sense her struggle. "How about this?" he said. "I'll hold on to your phone for now. If there's an emergency, I'll let you know, but otherwise you get a break from it. From him. Sound fair?" "What if my mom calls?" "Then I'll answer and tell her you're safe. I won't tell her where you are or who I am, but I'll make sure she knows you're alive." Maya considered this. The thought of being completely unreachable should terrify her, but instead it felt like relief. Like someone had just lifted a weight she'd been carrying for so long, she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. "Okay," she said. "Keep it." Adrian pocketed the phone and guided her back to the living room. "The clothes are in your closet. Why don't you change, and then we'll figure out the rest of the day." Maya retreated to the guest room and found the closet full of basics. Jeans, t-shirts, sweaters, underwear still in packages, even shoes in approximately her size. Everything was simple and practical and clearly chosen by someone who had no idea what her style was but wanted to cover all the bases. It was perfect. She dressed slowly, her ribs protesting every movement, dark jeans that fit reasonably well, a soft gray sweater, socks, and sneakers. Looking at herself in the mirror, she looked almost normal. Almost like a woman who had her life together instead of one who'd fled her apartment in the middle of the night. When she returned to the living room, Adrian was on his phone again, speaking in low tones. He ended the call when he saw her. "You look better," he said. "I look human." "That too." He stood, grabbing a jacket from the back of the couch. "I need to go into the office for a few hours. Handle some things I can't delegate. You'll be safe here. Building has excellent security, and no one gets past the front desk without clearance." "What am I supposed to do?" "Whatever you want. Watch TV, read. There's a library down the hall. Sleep more if you need it. He hesitated. Just don't leave the building. Not yet. Not until we're sure. Maya nodded, understanding the unspoken concern. Ethan might be looking for her. Might be angry enough to do something stupid. I'll be back by dinner, Adrian said. If you need anything, call me. He handed her a different phone, a simple smartphone. It's clean. My number's already programmed in. He left before Maya could ask what clean meant, though she suspected it had something to do with being untraceable. She was alone in the penthouse with nothing but time and her thoughts. A dangerous combination. Maya explored first, needing to understand the space. The library Adrian mentioned was actually a study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with everything from classic literature to business texts to, surprisingly, poetry. She pulled out a volume of Pablo Neruda and carried it to the window seat overlooking the lake. But she couldn't focus on the words. Her mind kept circling back to the impossibility of her situation. Yesterday, she'd been Maya Bennett, waitress and victim, trapped in an apartment with a man who'd convinced her she deserved every bruise. Today she was Maya Bennett, house guest of a mob boss, wearing clothes he'd bought her and drinking his expensive coffee while he went off to do illegal things she couldn't even imagine. The absurdity should be funny. It wasn't. Her new phone rang, making her jump, Adrian's name on the screen. Hello? Just checking in, Adrian said. You okay? I'm fine. You've been gone 20 minutes. I know, just wanted to make sure. Something in Maya's chest loosened at the concern in his voice. I'm really okay. Go handle your business. Call if you need anything. I will. She hung up and returned to the window, to the view of a city where she was both safer and more lost than she'd ever been. Her old phone, the one Adrian had taken, buzzed again from wherever he'd put it. Ethan, probably. Still calling, still demanding. Still not understanding that for the first time in 3 years, Maya wasn't listening. Adrian returned 6 hours later with takeout containers and a tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there that morning. Rough day? Maya asked from her position on the couch, where she'd been attempting to read. You could say that. Adrian set the food on the counter with more force than necessary. One of my guys decided he could skim off the top without consequences. Had to have a very direct conversation about trust and expectations. Is he still alive? Adrian looked at her sharply, then seemed to realize she was serious. Yes. Broken hand, intact life. I'm not a monster, Maya. I didn't say you were. You were thinking it. I was thinking, Maya said slowly, that you've killed people. You told me you killed the man who murdered your sister. You threatened to kill Ethan. So the question of whether someone's still alive after crossing you seems fair. Adrian exhaled and ran a hand through his hair. You're right. That's fair. For the record, I don't kill casually, only when absolutely necessary, and only people who've earned it through their own actions. Like Marcus. Like Marcus, Adrian agreed, and I'd do it again without hesitation. They stared at each other across the kitchen, something unspoken passing between them. Maya should be horrified by his casual admission of murder, should be planning her escape. Instead, she found herself understanding the dark logic of it. Ethan had put her in the hospital twice, had nearly killed her last night. If someone had done to him what Adrian did to Marcus, would she have mourned, or would she have felt relieved? I brought Thai food, Adrian said, breaking the tension. Assumed it was safe since most people like Thai. They ate at the dining room table this time, a massive thing that could seat 12 but felt intimate with just the two of them at one end. Maya picked at her pad thai while Adrian worked through his green curry with methodical efficiency. Tell me about you, Adrian said suddenly. Not the trauma, not Ethan. You. Who were you before all this? Maya set down her fork, surprised by the question. I don't know if I remember anymore. Try. She thought back, reaching past 3 years of fear and violence to the girl she'd been at 23. I wanted to be a teacher, she said slowly. Elementary school. I loved kids. Loved the idea of shaping young minds and making a difference. Why didn't you? I met Ethan in my last year of college. He was charming, attentive, said all the right things. After graduation, he convinced me to move in with him instead of applying for teaching positions. Said he'd support us while I figured things out. Then figuring things out became taking care of the apartment. Then it became getting a waitressing job to help with bills. Then it became survival, Adrian finished. Yeah. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Survival. You could still teach after this, after you're safe. I'm 26 with no experience, a 3-year gap in my resume, and a face that looks like I went 10 rounds with a heavyweight. What school would hire me? The bruises will fade, but, Adrian said, the gap can be explained, and you're 26, not 60. You have time. Maya wanted to believe him, wanted to think she could reclaim the dreams Ethan had slowly strangled. But hope felt dangerous. Hope meant giving herself permission to want things again, and wanting things gave the universe something to take away. What about you? She asked, deflecting. How does someone become... She gestured vaguely at him. A criminal. Adrian smiled without humor. Family business. My father ran the same operations I do now. I grew up watching him broker deals and settle disputes. Learned early that respect is earned through strength, and mercy is a luxury you can't always afford. You said you had a sister. What about other family? Mother died when I was 12. Car accident. After that, it was just me, Elena, and our father. He passed 5 years ago. Heart attack. Very anticlimactic for a man who survived 3 assassination attempts. I'm sorry. Don't be. He was a hard man. Fair, but hard. I respected him more than I loved him. Adrian pushed his food around his plate. Elena was the only one who saw past what I was. She'd yell at me about the business, tell me I was better than this. After she died, there was no one left to care whether I was better or worse. So I became worse. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Maya recognized it for what it was. Adrian showing her his own scars, his own damage. Maybe so she'd feel less alone in hers. You came for me, Maya said quietly. That's not worse. That's better. One good act doesn't erase 20 years of bad ones. Maybe not, but it counts for something. They finished dinner in comfortable silence this time. Adrian insisted on cleaning up while Maya took her pain medication and tried not to wince every time she moved wrong. The ibuprofen helped, but she suspected she'd need something stronger soon. Can I ask you something? Maya said, as Adrian dried the last dish. Always. Why aren't you married, girlfriend? You're successful, not terrible looking. Someone should have locked you down by now. Adrian laughed, the sound startling in its genuineness. Not terrible looking. I'll take that as a compliment. And to answer your question, my lifestyle doesn't exactly lend itself to traditional relationships. Hard to build trust when your boyfriend has to leave dates early to handle bodies. Bodies? Figure of speech, mostly. He set down the dish towel and leaned against the counter. I've had relationships, nothing that lasted. Women either want to change me or they're attracted to the danger. Neither makes for a solid foundation. What would make a solid foundation? Adrian was quiet, his dark eyes studying her with that same intensity from the morning. Someone who sees what I am and doesn't run. Someone who understands that good and bad aren't always separate categories. Someone brave enough to build something real in the middle of all this chaos. The air between them felt charged suddenly, crackling with possibility. Maya's pulse quickened and she wasn't sure if it was fear or something else entirely. This man had saved her life, had given her shelter and clothes and safety. But he was also a killer, a criminal. Everything her rational mind said she should avoid. I should sleep, Maya said abruptly, standing too fast. Her ribs screamed in protest and she gasped. Adrian was at her side immediately, steadying her with gentle hands. Easy, you're still healing. I'm fine. You're stubborn. But he smiled as he said it. Come on, I'll walk you to your room. He stayed carefully distant as they moved down the hall, close enough to catch her if she fell but not touching. At her door, Maya turned to face him. Thank you, she said, for everything today, for the clothes and the food and for caring. It's not a hardship, Maya. You're easy to care about. The words landed between them, weighted with meaning neither was ready to examine. Maya's hand found the doorknob. Good night, Adrian. Good night. She slipped inside and closed the door, leaning against it as she heard his footsteps retreat. Her heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the dangerous realization that she was starting to trust him, starting to feel safe, not just in his space, but with him. And that was a complication she absolutely didn't need. Across the hall, Adrian stood in his own bedroom staring out at the Chicago skyline. His phone buzzed with messages from Marco about shipments and meetings and the 100 small crises that made up his daily life. He ignored all of them. Instead, he pulled out Maya's old phone, the one he'd taken that morning. 17 more calls from Ethan. 23 new messages, each more frantic and angry than the last. Promises of violence mixed with declarations of love, mixed with threats that would have made Adrian laugh if they weren't so pathetically typical. He powered the phone down completely and locked it in his desk drawer. Tomorrow he'd have Marco run Ethan's information, make sure the bastard had actually left Chicago like Adrian told him to. And if he hadn't, well, Adrian had made a promise about what would happen then. For tonight, though, he let himself think about the woman sleeping across the hall, about brown eyes that had seen too much pain and a smile he'd glimpsed exactly once during dinner when he'd told a terrible joke, about the way she'd looked at him without flinching when he admitted to murder, like she was trying to understand rather than judge. Adrian had built his entire life on control, on careful calculation and strategic planning, on never letting emotion dictate action. But nothing about Maya Bennett was controlled or calculated or strategic. She was chaos wrapped in borrowed clothes, sleeping in his guest room, disrupting everything he thought he knew about himself. And for the first time in 20 years, Adrian wasn't sure if that was a problem or a gift. The days blurred together in a rhythm Maya had never experienced before. Wake up without fear. Eat breakfast with Adrian when he was home. Alone when he wasn't. Read books from his extensive library. Watch the lake change colors as the sun moved across the sky. Sleep without nightmares. By day 5, the bruises on her face had faded from purple-black to a sickly yellow-green. Her ribs still ached, but the sharp, breath-stealing pain had dulled to something manageable. Physically, she was healing. Emotionally was another story. Maya stood at the window watching the city below, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. Behind her, Adrian was on yet another phone call, his voice a low rumble she'd learned to tune out. Something about a shipment and payment terms and people who were testing his patience. "I don't care if he's your cousin," Adrian said, ice-coating every word. He knew the terms. He agreed to them. Now he wants to renegotiate after taking delivery? That's not how this works, Vincent. You have 24 hours to make this right, or I make it right my way. He ended the call with enough force that Maya heard the phone hit the counter. She turned to find him standing in the kitchen, jaw clenched, hands braced against the marble, like he was physically restraining himself from putting his fist through something. "Bad day?" Maya asked. Adrian looked up, and some of the tension drained from his shoulders when he saw her. "Bad week. Some people confuse patience with weakness." "Are you going to kill Vincent's cousin?" "Probably not. Breaking both his legs should send an adequate message." Maya should be horrified. A month ago, she would have been. Now she just nodded and returned her attention to the window. The casual discussion of violence had become almost normal, which probably said something deeply troubling about her mental state. "You've been quiet today," Adrian observed, moving to stand beside her at the window. "What's on your mind?" "Tomorrow's a week," Maya said. "You promised I could call my mother." Adrian was silent for a moment. "I did, and I'll keep that promise, but Maya, there are things we need to discuss first." "Like what?" "Like what happens next. You can't stay here indefinitely hiding from your life." The words hit harder than they should have. Maya had known this arrangement was temporary. She wasn't Adrian's responsibility, wasn't his problem to solve. He'd done more than anyone had a right to expect, but hearing him say it out loud made something in her chest constrict painfully. "I know," she said, keeping her voice carefully neutral. "I've been thinking about that. I could go to my mom's for a while, get a new waitressing job, find a cheap apartment somewhere Ethan wouldn't think to look." "Is that what you want?" Maya turned to look at him. "What I want doesn't really matter. It's what I can afford. I don't have money saved, don't have skills beyond pouring coffee and taking orders. My options are pretty limited." "What if they weren't?" Adrian asked. "What if money wasn't an issue? What would you want?" "I'd go back to school," Maya said immediately, then stopped, surprised by her own certainty. "Finish my teaching certification, get a job working with kids like I always planned. Maybe I'd move somewhere new, start completely over where nobody knows me as the girl who couldn't leave her abusive boyfriend." "So do it." "With what money, Adrian? I have maybe $300 in my bank account. That won't even cover first month's rent anywhere, let alone tuition. Adrian was quiet, his expression unreadable. Then he said, I could help with that. No. The word came out sharper than Maya intended. You've already done too much. I'm not taking your money. Why not? Because I don't want to owe you anything else. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Maya wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold together the pieces that felt like they were coming apart. You think you owe me? Adrian's voice was soft, almost hurt. Maya, you don't... Of course I do. Maya turned to face him fully, everything she'd been holding back for 5 days spilling out. You saved my life, gave me clothes and food and a place to stay. You ask for nothing and give me everything, and I have no idea why or what you want from me or when the bill's going to come due. There is no bill. There's always a bill. Nobody does this much for a stranger without expecting something in return. Adrian's jaw clenched. Is that what you think? That I'm keeping some kind of tally, waiting for the right moment to collect payment? I don't know what to think. You're a criminal, Adrian. You hurt people for a living. You've killed people. But you treat me like I'm made of glass and you get me clothes and call to check if I'm okay, and I don't understand any of it. Maybe I'm just trying to be decent for once in my goddamn life. Adrian's voice rose to match hers. She'd seen his world in fragments over the past week. The phone calls where he discussed violence like weather, the visitors who showed up at odd hours and left looking nervous, the way people's voices changed when they realized who they were talking to. But she'd also seen him bring her coffee every morning without being asked, seen him spend 20 minutes on the phone tracking down a specific brand of pain medication because she'd mentioned it worked better for her, seen him leave meetings early to check on her, seen the way his expression softened when he found her curled up with a book. Adrian Valente was a contradiction in expensive suits and casual violence, and Maya was terrified by how much she was starting to care about him. Her phone, the clean one Adrian had given her, lit up with a text. Adrian, you awake? Maya, can't sleep. Adrian, come to the living room, I'll make tea. She found him in the kitchen in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. The kettle was already heating. Chamomile or peppermint? He asked. Chamomile. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, tea steaming between them, the city lights stretching out beyond the windows like scattered stars. I keep thinking about what you said, Maya began, about wanting to balance out the bad things you've done. You don't have to... Let me finish. She set down her mug. You can't balance it out, Adrian. That's not how it works. Good acts don't erase bad ones, and bad acts don't negate good ones. They just exist together, making us complicated and human and impossible to categorize. That's a very philosophical take for 2 a.m. I've had a lot of time to think this week. About you, about me, about how we ended up here. Maya pulled her knees to her chest. 3 years ago, I made a choice to stay with someone who hurt me. I could blame him, blame my circumstances, blame anything, but at the end of the day, I chose to stay. And I've been punishing myself for that choice ever since. Maya, but you saved me from having to make that choice again. You showed up and gave me a third option I didn't even know existed. And yeah, you're a criminal. You've done terrible things, but you're also the only person who's ever driven across a city at 3 a.m. to help me. Adrian was quiet, his jaw working like he was trying to find words that wouldn't come. So what I'm saying is, Maya continued, maybe we're both trying to figure out who we are outside of the worst things we've done. And maybe we can figure it out together. Together, Adrian repeated softly. That's a dangerous word. Everything about this is dangerous. Fair point. He shifted on the couch, angling toward her. If we're being honest, I should tell you something. Okay? This past week, having you here, it's been... He stopped, searching for words. I've lived alone for 5 years, built my whole life around solitude and control. And then you showed up and suddenly my penthouse feels like a home instead of a holding cell. That scares me. Maya's heart was pounding. Why? Because homes can be taken away. Because caring about people makes you vulnerable. Because the last time I cared about someone, I lost her, and it nearly destroyed me. Elena, Adrian confirmed. After she died, I promised myself I'd never let anyone that close again. Easier to be alone than risk that kind of pain. But you're not alone anymore, Maya said quietly. No. Adrian's eyes found hers across the darkness. I'm not. The moment stretched between them, heavy with possibility. Maya knew she should look away, should retreat to her room, should maintain the careful distance they'd been pretending existed. Instead, she set down her tea and moved closer. Adrian, she whispered, I'm scared. Of me? Of this. Of feeling safe with you. Of starting to depend on you. Of... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. Of what? His voice was gentle, giving her space to be honest. Of falling for someone who lives in a world I don't understand. Of wanting something I know I shouldn't want. Adrian's hand came up, cupping her bruised cheek with a tenderness that made her eyes sting. And what do you want, Maya? I want to feel alive again instead of just surviving. I want to stop being afraid. I want... She leaned into his touch. I want to stop running from the only person who makes me feel safe. I can't promise you normal, Adrian said. I can't promise you easy. My life is complicated and dangerous and probably not what you imagined for yourself. Nothing about my life has been what I imagined. But I can promise you this. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, carefully avoiding the fading bruise. As long as you're with me, no one will ever hurt you again. I'll keep you safe. I'll give you space to heal, and I'll never ever make you feel like you owe me anything for it. Maya's breath caught. That's a big promise. I don't make promises I can't keep. She believed him. Against all logic and self-preservation, she believed every word. Maybe that made her foolish. Maybe she was trading one dangerous situation for another. But when Adrian looked at her like she was something precious, something worth protecting, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Kiss me, she whispered. Adrian's eyes darkened. Maya, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to, unless you don't. He kissed her before she could finish the sentence. It was soft and careful, and nothing like the demanding, bruising kisses Ethan had forced on her. Adrian kissed her like she might break, like she was valuable beyond measure, like he had all the time in the world to learn what made her sigh. Maya's hands found his hair, pulling him closer. Adrian's arms wrapped around her waist, careful of her healing ribs. The kiss deepened slowly, a question and an answer and a promise, all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. This changes things, he said. I know. My world is dark, Maya. Violent. I can't shield you from all of it. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to let me choose for myself. And I choose this. I choose you. Adrian pulled back enough to look at her, his dark eyes searching hers. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her again, and this time there was less restraint in it. Maya let herself get lost in the feeling of being wanted without fear, desired without pain. Adrian's hand stayed respectful, never pushing, always asking permission with each new touch. It was Maya who finally pulled back, reluctantly. I should sleep, she said. It's late, and I have to call my mom tomorrow. Right. Your mom. Adrian looked almost dazed. Maya, about what just happened. Don't, she said, pressing a finger to his lips. Don't overthink it. Don't talk yourself out of it. We can figure out the complications tomorrow. For tonight, just let this be simple. Nothing about this is simple. Then let's pretend it is. Adrian caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Good night, Maya. Good night. She made it to her bedroom door before turning back. Adrian was still on the couch, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Adrian? Yeah? Thank you for making me feel human again. His smile was soft and genuine and did dangerous things to her heartbeat. Thank you for giving me a reason to be better. Maya closed the door and leaned against it, one hand pressed to her lips where she could still feel the ghost of his kiss. She was falling for a mob boss, a man who hurt people for a living, a man who'd killed and threatened and lived in moral gray areas she'd never imagined existed. She was falling for him, and she didn't want to stop. The next morning, Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adrian's voice drifting from the kitchen, She dressed quickly in jeans and a sweater, finger-combed her hair, and tried not to think too hard about what had happened the night before. When she emerged, Adrian was at the counter with his laptop, video call in progress. He looked up when he heard her, and something in his expression softened. "I'll call you back, Marco," he said, ending the call. "Morning." "Morning." Maya poured herself coffee, hyper-aware of the new tension between them. The good kind of tension that made her skin feel too tight and her pulse too fast. "Sleep okay?" Adrian asked. "Eventually, you?" "Same." They looked at each other across the kitchen, and Maya saw her own uncertainty reflected back at her. Then Adrian smiled, slow and genuine, and the tension broke. "Come here," he said. Maya crossed to him, and Adrian pulled her into a hug that felt like coming home. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head, and Maya let herself lean into him, breathing in his scent of expensive cologne and coffee. "Still sure about this?" Adrian asked against her hair. "Terrified," Maya admitted, "but yes, still sure." "Good, because I made a decision." Maya pulled back to look at him. "What decision?" "About what happens next. You said you wanted to go back to school, finish your teaching certification. I want to help make that happen." "Adrian, we talked about this. Hear me out." His hand settled on her waist, anchoring her. "Not a handout, an investment. You go to school, get your degree, start your new life. Once you're working, once you're stable, you pay me back. No interest, no timeline, just a loan between—" He hesitated. "Between people who care about each other." Maya's throat tightened. "You'd do that? I'd do anything for you." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Maya searched his face for doubt or manipulation or anything that would tell her this was too good to be true. She found only honesty and something that looked a lot like affection. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Yes. Thank you." Adrian's smile could have lit up the entire penthouse. He pulled her close again, and Maya let herself believe that maybe, impossibly, she'd found safety in the last place she ever expected to look. They spent the morning researching teaching programs and certification requirements. Adrian pulled strings with contacts at local universities, getting Maya information on expedited enrollment and scholarship opportunities. By noon, they had a plan. By evening, Maya had applications submitted to 3 programs. "Now," Adrian said, closing his laptop with satisfaction. "Time to call your mother." Maya's stomach dropped. She'd been dreading this all day. Her mother would be frantic, would have questions Maya couldn't answer, would want details she couldn't give. "I don't know what to say to her," Maya admitted. "Tell her you're safe. Tell her you left Ethan. Tell her you need time. That's all she needs to know." Maya picked up the phone with shaking hands. Adrian squeezed her shoulder once, then retreated to give her privacy. But she caught his hand before he could leave. "Stay," she said. "Please?" "Always." Maya dialed her mother's number and waited through 3 rings before a frantic voice answered. "Maya? Maya, is that you? Oh my God, where have you been? I've been calling and calling." "Mom, I'm fine," Maya interrupted. "I'm safe. I'm okay." "Fine, you're fine. Maya, I filed a missing persons report. The police have been looking for you. Ethan said you just vanished. Said he came home and you were gone. Said he's been worried sick." "Mom, stop." Maya's voice was firm. "Ethan's lying." "I left him. I left because he was hurting me and I couldn't stay anymore." Silence on the other end. Then, in a much smaller voice, "Hurting you how?" "How do you think, Mom?" Her mother's breath caught. "The bruises. Last Christmas. You said you fell." "I didn't fall." "Oh, baby." Her mother's voice broke. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I thought I could fix it. Because—" Maya's voice cracked. "Because I didn't want you to think less of me for staying. I could never think less of you. Never. Where are you now? Come home. Let me take care of you." "I can't. Not yet. Ethan knows where you live." "He's been here," her mother said. 3 times. Looking for you. The last time I told him to leave or I'd call the police." Maya's blood ran cold. Adrian's hand tightened on hers, and she knew he'd heard. His expression had gone dangerous, the softness from earlier replaced by something cold and calculating. "If he comes back," Maya said carefully, "you need to call the police immediately. Don't talk to him. Don't let him in. Just call 911. I will. But Maya, where are you staying? Let me help. I'm somewhere safe, Mom, with someone who's helping me get back on my feet. I can't tell you more than that right now, but I promise I'm okay. They talked for another 20 minutes, Maya's mother alternating between relief and worry and barely contained fury at Ethan. When Maya finally ended the call, she felt wrung out and exhausted. He's been to her house, she said to Adrian. 3 times. I heard. Adrian's voice was ice. I'll handle it. How? By reminding him what happens when he breaks our agreement. Maya saw the violence brewing behind Adrian's eyes and knew she should stop him, should tell him it wasn't worth it, that Ethan wasn't worth it. But part of her, the part that had lived in fear for 3 years, wanted Adrian to handle it. Wanted someone to finally make Ethan understand that actions had consequences. Don't kill him, Maya said, but make sure he never bothers my mother again. Adrian's smile was sharp and dangerous. Consider it done. He made 2 phone calls, speaking in low tones Maya couldn't quite hear. When he returned to the living room, his expression had cleared. Vincent's crew owes me a favor, Adrian said. They're in Milwaukee. They'll pay Ethan a visit tonight. Explain very clearly that if he contacts you or your mother again, if he even thinks about coming back to Chicago, the next visit won't be a conversation. Will they hurt him? Probably, but not permanently, just enough to drive the point home. Maya should feel guilty, should feel something other than grim satisfaction. Instead, she just felt relief that finally, someone was protecting her instead of the other way around. That night, Maya lay awake thinking about how far she'd come in a week, from terrified and trapped to safe and hopeful, from believing she deserved the pain to believing she deserved better, from running from one monster to finding safety with another. Except Adrian wasn't a monster, not to her. To her, he was the man who'd crossed a city to save a stranger, who'd given her space to heal and clothes to wear and hope for a future she'd thought was impossible. To her, he was becoming everything. 3 weeks passed in a blur of normalcy that felt more surreal than the chaos that had preceded it. Maya enrolled in an accelerated teaching certification program that would start in the fall. She met with academic advisors, applied for scholarships, and slowly began to believe that the future she'd abandoned at 23 might still be possible at 26. Adrian's penthouse had stopped feeling like a temporary shelter and started feeling like home. Maya knew where he kept the good coffee, knew which side of the couch he preferred, knew that he took business calls at exactly 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day without fail. She learned the rhythm of his world, the visitors who came and went, the hours he kept, the careful balance between legitimate business and the shadows he operated in. They fell into something that looked like a relationship without ever explicitly naming it. Adrian kissed her goodbye before leaving for work. Maya had dinner waiting when he came home. They talked late into the night about everything and nothing, learning each other in the way new lovers do. But they'd never moved beyond kissing, both of them cautious about pushing too fast into territory that required more trust than Maya had fully rebuilt. It felt perfect. Too perfect. Maya kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Tuesday. Maya was in the kitchen making lunch when Adrian's phone rang. She'd learned to recognize the different ringtones. Marco was a simple buzz. Business contacts were classical music, and unknown numbers were a harsh digital chirp that always made Adrian's expression harden. This was the harsh chirp. Adrian answered, his voice clipped. Valente. Maya couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Adrian's face go from annoyed to dangerous in the span of 3 seconds. His free hand curled into a fist on the counter, knuckles going white. When? He demanded. How many men? And you're certain it was Constantine's crew? Constantine. Maya had heard that name before in passing. Some rival of Adrian's who operated on the north side. They'd maintained an uneasy truce for years, according to Marco, who occasionally discussed business in front of Maya despite Adrian's glares. Pull everyone back to the club, Adrian ordered. I'm on my way. And Marco, get Maya's detail in place now. He ended the call and immediately started moving, grabbing his jacket and checking the gun holstered at his side with practiced efficiency. What's happening? Maya asked, fear creeping into her voice. Constantine just hit one of my warehouses, took out 3 of my guys and made off with a shipment worth $500,000. Adrian's voice was cold, all business. This is a declaration of war. War? Maya's stomach dropped. Adrian, what does that mean? It means things are about to get messy. He crossed to her, cupping her face in both hands. Listen to me very carefully. Marco's sending 2 men here within the next 10 minutes. They're going to stay with you until I get back. You don't open the door for anyone except me or Marco. You don't leave the building. You don't even go near the windows. Understand? You're scaring me. Good. Be scared. Be careful. Constantine knows I'm more vulnerable than I've been in years, and he's testing me. Adrian's eyes bore into hers. He might know about you. If he does, he'll use you against me. So you stay here, you stay safe, and you let me handle this. How long will you be gone? I don't know. Hours. Maybe longer. He kissed her hard and fast. I'll call when I can. But Maya, if something happens, if someone gets past the guards, or you feel unsafe for any reason, there's a panic button under the kitchen counter. Press it, and the building goes into lockdown. Police will be here in 4 minutes. Maya's hands were shaking. Adrian, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe I have to. If I don't respond to this immediately, every 2-bit hustler in Chicago will think I'm weak. This is the world I live in, Maya. The world you said you could handle. The words stung because they were true. Maya had said she could handle his dangerous life, had said she chose this. But hearing it and living it were 2 very different things. Be careful, she whispered. Always. Adrian kissed her once more. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a finality that made Maya's chest constrict. She stood in the kitchen, alone and afraid, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. The 2 guards arrived exactly 8 minutes later. Maya watched them through the peephole before letting them in. One was young, maybe mid-20s, with nervous eyes and a gun visible under his jacket. The other was older, gray at the temples, with the kind of stillness that suggested he'd seen too much violence to be rattled by more. Ms. Bennett, the older one said. I'm Patrick. This is Tommy. We'll be stationed outside your door until Mr. Valente returns. You can come in, Maya offered. Respectfully, ma'am, we're more effective in the hallway. You need anything? You let us know. They took up positions on either side of her door, professional and silent. Maya closed herself back in the penthouse and tried not to pace. She lasted 20 minutes before calling Adrian. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. Background noise filtered through, voices, engines, the general chaos of men preparing for violence. Maya, I can't talk right now. I know, are you okay? I'm fine, have to go. He paused. I love you. The line went dead before Maya could respond. She stared at the phone, those 3 words echoing in her head. He loved her. Adrian Valente, criminal and killer and the man who'd saved her life, loved her. And she'd never said it back. The hours crawled by with excruciating slowness. Maya tried to read, tried to watch television, tried to do anything that would distract her from the images playing in her mind. Adrian bleeding out in some warehouse. Adrian in a shootout with Constantine's men. Adrian dying alone while she sat safe in his penthouse, useless and afraid. At 8 p.m., her phone rang. Not Adrian, Marco. Miss Bennett, I need you to stay calm. Maya's blood turned to ice. Where's Adrian? He's fine, but there's been a complication. Constantine's people grabbed one of our associates, someone Adrian cares about. They're demanding a meeting. What kind of meeting? The kind where people usually don't walk away. Marco's voice was grim. Adrian's going. He has to, but I need you to understand what that means. There's a very real possibility he might not come back. Then he shouldn't go. Maya was shouting now, pacing the living room like a caged animal. Tell him not to go. Tell him. He won't listen. You know he won't. The man they took, Vincent, he's been with Adrian for 15 years. Adrian's not going to leave him to die. So he'll die instead? Maybe. Probably not. Adrian's survived worse, but you should prepare yourself for the possibility. Maya wanted to scream, wanted to throw the phone across the room, wanted to storm out of the penthouse and find Adrian herself, drag him back to safety through sheer force of will. Where's this meeting happening? She demanded. Maya, don't... Where, Marco? He sighed. The old manufacturing district, warehouse on Porter Street. But you can't go there. Adrian would kill me if I let you anywhere near. I'm not asking your permission. Ms. Bennett, please. Maya ended the call and stood in the center of the living room, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was insane, that she was a school teacher, not a warrior, that she had no business inserting herself into a mob war. But Adrian loved her, had said those words before walking into what might be his death, and she'd never said them back. Maya moved to the bedroom and changed quickly into dark jeans and a black sweater. She found a jacket in Adrian's closet and pulled it on. In the kitchen, she hesitated over the knife block, then grabbed the smallest blade and tucked it into her boot. It was probably useless, but it made her feel slightly less helpless. The panic button under the counter caught her eye. Press it, and the building locked down. The guards outside her door would come running. Adrian would know she'd left. Maya pressed it anyway. Then she grabbed her phone and headed for the door. Patrick and Tommy turned as she emerged, both going on alert. Miss Bennett, you need to stay inside, Patrick said. Building's in lockdown, Maya replied. Elevators will be shut down in about 30 seconds, but the stairs still work. Patrick's eyes widened. You pressed the panic button? I did, and I'm leaving. You can either let me go or explain to Adrian why you physically restrained the woman he's in love with. The two guards looked at each other. Tommy looked like he might actually try to stop her. Patrick just looked resigned. Where are you going? Patrick asked. To do something incredibly stupid. Then we're coming with you. They took the stairs down 20 floors, emerging into an underground parking garage in chaos. The panic button had triggered a building-wide alert, and security was scrambling to figure out what the threat was. In the confusion, Maya and her unwilling escorts made it to Patrick's car. Porter Street, Maya said, sliding into the back seat. Manufacturing district. This is a terrible idea, Tommy muttered, but he was already starting the engine. You have guns, right? Maya asked. Yes, ma'am. Good. Because I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. They drove through Chicago in tense silence. Maya's phone rang 3 times. Adrian, then Marco, then Adrian again. She ignored all of them. Whatever she was about to walk into, she needed to do it without him talking her out of it. The manufacturing district was a wasteland of abandoned buildings and broken streetlights. Patrick navigated through the darkness until they spotted a cluster of cars near a massive warehouse. Expensive cars. The kind people in Adrian's world drove. That's Adrian's Audi, Tommy said, pointing. And Marco's SUV. They're here. How many men does Constantine have? Maya asked. Double what Adrian brought, probably. He's got the numbers advantage. Patrick turned to look at her. Miss Bennett, you still have time to turn back. Let the men handle this. The men are about to get Adrian killed, Maya said. So no, I'm not turning back. She was out of the car before they could stop her, moving toward the warehouse on legs that shook with each step. Patrick and Tommy flanked her, hands on their weapons. The warehouse doors were partially open, light spilling out into the darkness. Inside, Maya could hear voices. Adrian's, cold and controlled. Another voice she didn't recognize, heavily accented and amused. You come to my meeting with only 6 men, Valente? You insult me. I came in good faith, Constantine. Where's Vincent? Alive. For now. Whether he stays that way depends on you. Maya crept closer, peering through the gap in the doors. The interior of the warehouse was vast and mostly empty, lit by harsh fluorescent lights that turned everything sickly yellow. In the center, 2 groups of men faced each other like armies on a battlefield. Adrian stood at the front of his group, flanked by Marco and 4 others Maya recognized from the penthouse. Across from them, a man who must be Constantine held court with at least a dozen armed men. And bound to a chair between them, bloodied and barely conscious, was Vincent. What do you want? Adrian demanded. What I've always wanted, the Southside operations. Your territory, your connections. Everything you've built for the past 20 years. Constantine smiled, and Maya could see it was cruel even from a distance. Give me that, and Vincent lives. That's insane. I'd rather burn it all than hand it to you. Then Vincent burns with it. Constantine pulled a gun and pressed it to Vincent's head. Adrian went rigid, and Maya saw the calculation in his eyes. Saw him weighing one man's life against everything he'd built. Saw him preparing to make an impossible choice. And Maya knew, with sudden clarity, that Adrian would sacrifice it all, would give up his empire, his power, everything, to save someone he cared about. because that's who he was beneath the violence and the reputation. A man who valued loyalty above all else. Wait! Maya's voice cut through the warehouse before she could stop herself. Every head turned toward her. Adrian's face went from shock to rage to terror in rapid succession. Maya, get out of here, he shouted. Now! But Maya was already moving forward, Patrick and Tommy flanking her nervously. She had no plan, no idea what she was doing, just the desperate need to stop Adrian from destroying himself. Who is this? Constantine asked, his smile widening. Not one of your men, surely. She's no one, Adrian said quickly. She's not part of this. Let her leave. Oh, but I think she's very much part of this. Constantine's eyes gleamed as he studied Maya. Look at how you tense when I look at her. How your hand goes to your gun. This woman means something to you, Valente. Something important. Constantine, I'm warning you. I don't want your territory anymore, Constantine interrupted. I want something better. I want to watch you suffer the way you made me suffer when you killed my brother. Maya's blood ran cold. This wasn't about business. This was about revenge. Your brother attacked one of my men, Adrian said. Killed him. I was defending my own. And I am defending mine. An eye for an eye, as they say. Constantine turned his gun from Vincent to Maya. You took someone I loved. Now I'll take someone you love. Fair trade. Everything happened at once. Adrian lunged forward with a shout. Marco and the others drew their weapons. Constantine's men did the same, the warehouse erupting into a forest of guns all pointed at each other. And Maya, standing in the middle of it all, realized she'd just made everything infinitely worse. Don't! Adrian's voice cracked like a whip. Nobody moves, nobody shoots. Constantine, please. You want revenge? Take it on me. Leave her out of this. Begging, Valente? I never thought I'd see the day. Constantine gestured with his gun. Everyone lowers their weapons, now, or the girl dies where she stands. There was a moment of terrible stillness. Then, slowly, Adrian nodded to his men. They lowered their guns. Constantine's crew did the same, though they remained alert and ready. Good, Constantine said. Now we negotiate properly. You give me everything I want, and both Vincent and your little girlfriend live. Refuse and they both die. You have 30 seconds to decide. I'll give you whatever you want, Adrian said immediately. Territory, money, connections, all of it. Just let them go. Maya's heart broke at the defeat in his voice. He was giving up everything he'd built, becoming powerless. And it was her fault for coming here. Adrian, no, she said. Don't hold... Quiet, Constantine snapped. The adults are talking. Something in Maya snapped. She'd spent 3 years being told to be quiet, to know her place, to let men make decisions about her life. She'd escaped Ethan only to end up here, causing Adrian to sacrifice everything because she'd been stupid enough to think she could help. No more. You want revenge? Maya said, her voice stronger than she felt. Then take it on me. I'm the one who walked in here and complicated this. I'm the one Adrian will suffer most for losing. Let Vincent go, let Adrian keep his territory, and you can do whatever you want to me. Maya, shut up, Adrian roared. Don't you dare. It's fair, Maya continued, ignoring him. You get your revenge. Adrian loses what matters most. Vincent lives. Everyone gets something. Constantine studied her with newfound interest. Brave. Stupid, but brave. You love him that much? Enough to die for him? Maya's eyes found Adrian's across the warehouse. He looked terrified, fury and fear warring on his face. She thought about the past 3 weeks, thought about morning coffee and late-night conversations, thought about the way he kissed her like she was precious, thought about 3 words he'd said before walking into danger. Yes, Maya said simply. I love him that much. No! Adrian started forward, but 3 of Constantine's men blocked his path. Maya, stop this. I won't let you... Interesting proposition, Constantine mused. But I think there's a better option. I kill you both. Adrian loses everything, and I get to watch him suffer twice. Then I take his territory anyway because he'll be too broken to fight back. He raised his gun, aiming at Maya. She saw Adrian's face contort with anguish, saw him reach for his weapon even though he was outnumbered and outgunned, saw him preparing to die, trying to save her. The warehouse doors exploded inward with a crash that echoed like thunder. Maya dropped to the ground on instinct as the room erupted into chaos. Shouts and gunfire, and the sound of running feet filled the space. Police! Everyone on the ground now! Through the confusion, Maya saw uniformed officers flooding in from multiple entrances. At least 20 of them, weapons drawn, surrounding both groups. Constantine's face twisted with rage as he realized he'd been outmaneuvered. Adrian appeared at Maya's side, pulling her to her feet and behind him in one smooth motion. Stay down, he ordered, his body shielding hers. Drop your weapons, an officer shouted. Now! Slowly, reluctantly, Constantine's men complied. Adrian's crew did the same. The police moved in efficiently, separating everyone, securing the scene. A man in a detective's shield approached Adrian. Mr. Valente? Appreciate the tip about the hostage situation. Detective Morrison, Adrian acknowledged. Vincent's the one tied to the chair. Medical attention immediately. Already on it. Morrison's eyes flicked to Maya. This the civilian you were protecting? Yes. She needs to leave. Now. We'll need her statement. Tomorrow. At the station. With her lawyer present. Adrian's voice left no room for argument. Tonight she leaves. Non-negotiable. Morrison studied Adrian for a long moment, then nodded. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Don't be late. Marco appeared at Adrian's elbow. Car's ready, boss. Back exit. Adrian didn't wait for permission. He grabbed Maya's hand and pulled her toward a side door, Marco and Patrick clearing a path. They emerged into the night air, Maya's legs finally giving out as the adrenaline crashed. Adrian caught her, lifting her into his arms like she weighed nothing. I've got you, he murmured. I've got you. The car ride back to the penthouse was silent, except for Maya's ragged breathing as she tried not to fall apart. Adrian held her the entire way, his arms iron bands around her trembling body. When they finally made it inside, he set her down on the couch and immediately started checking her over. Are you hurt? Did anyone touch you? His hands were gentle but thorough, examining her for injuries. Maya, answer me. Are you hurt? I'm fine, she managed. I'm not hurt. You're not fine. You walked into an active hostage situation. You offered yourself as a trade. His voice broke. You could have died. So could you. That's different. How? Maya demanded, finding her anger now that the fear was receding. How is it different? You were about to give up everything you've built, everything that matters to you. Because you matter more, Adrian shouted. Don't you understand that? You matter more than territory or money or reputation or anything else. I would burn my entire world to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. And I would do the same for you, Maya shouted back. That's what love is, Adrian. It's not pretty or safe or logical. It's standing in a warehouse with a gun pointed at you because the thought of living without the other person is worse than dying. They stared at each other, both breathing hard. Then Adrian pulled her into a kiss that was desperate and claiming and full of everything they'd been too afraid to say out loud. Maya kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his shirt, anchoring herself to him. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. I'm terrified of how much I love you. I love you too, Maya whispered. I should have said it earlier, should have said it before you left. You said it when it mattered most. Adrian's thumb brushed across her cheek. You said it in front of Constantine and his men and the whole damn world. That took more courage than I've ever seen. It was stupid. It was brave. There's a difference. He pulled her close again and Maya felt him shaking. When I saw you walk into that warehouse, when Constantine pointed that gun at you, I felt something I haven't felt in 20 years. Pure, absolute terror. How did the police know to come? Maya asked. Adrian's expression turned sheepish. I called them before the meeting, told Morrison about the hostage situation, gave him the location, asked him to give me 20 minutes to try to resolve it peacefully before moving in. You had a backup plan. Always. But my backup plan didn't account for you showing up and offering yourself as a sacrifice like some kind of tragic heroine. I couldn't let you give up everything for me. And I can't let you die for me. So we're at an impasse. Adrian tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. We're going to have to find a middle ground between your self-sacrificing tendencies and my control issues. That sounds healthy. We're a mob boss and his girlfriend who met because she texted a wrong number in the middle of the night. Healthy was never really on the table. Maya laughed. the sound surprising them both. It turned into tears, relief and fear, and love, all crashing over her at once. Adrian held her through it, murmuring reassurances and pressing kisses to her hair. When she finally calmed, Maya pulled back to look at him. What happens now? With Constantine? He'll go to prison for kidnapping and attempted murder. His organization will fracture without him. Some of his territory will get absorbed by other players. Some will come to me by default. Adrian's expression was grim. It's not over, but it's handled. And Vincent? Hospital. Broken ribs, concussion, but he'll live. Thanks to you, actually. If you hadn't shown up when you did, I would have agreed to Constantine's terms. He would have killed Vincent anyway, once he had what he wanted. How do you know? Because it's what I would have done in his position. Adrian said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. Revenge doesn't end with compromise. It ends with blood. Maya should be disturbed by the casual violence in his voice. Instead, she just felt exhausted. I don't know how to live in your world, Adrian. I don't know the rules or the players or how to keep from making things worse. Then we'll figure it out together. Both of us learning, both of us adapting. He cupped her face in his hands. But Maya, you need to promise me something. Promise me you'll never put yourself in danger like that again. My heart can't take it. Only if you promise the same thing. That's not fair. Danger is part of my job. Then learn to delegate. Maya's voice was firm. Because I'm not spending our relationship constantly terrified you're going to die. If we're doing this, really doing this, you need to find a way to be safer. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, I'll try. I'll step back from the front lines more. Let Marco handle the dangerous situations. But that means you need to trust me to keep you safe without trying to protect me back. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss that was softer this time, a promise rather than a claim. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian stood and pulled Maya to her feet. Come on, he said. You need rest. It's been a hell of a night. But Maya didn't move toward her bedroom. Instead, she tugged Adrian toward his. He raised an eyebrow but didn't protest, following her into the space she'd never entered before. His room was exactly what she expected, minimalist and masculine, all dark wood and clean lines. The bed was massive, the sheets expensive. It looked like a place designed for sleeping alone. Stay with me tonight, Maya said. I don't want to be alone. Maya, we don't have to. I know we don't have to. I want to. Unless you don't want... Adrian silenced her with a kiss. I want to. I've wanted to since the night you fell asleep on my couch after dinner 2 weeks ago. But I need you to be sure. I'm sure. Maya's hands found the hem of his shirt. I'm sure about you, about us, about all of it. I almost lost you tonight, Adrian. I don't want to waste any more time being afraid. They undressed each other slowly, learning bodies through touch in the darkness. Adrian was careful with her healing ribs, gentle in a way that made Maya's eyes sting. This was nothing like Ethan's rough demands or selfish taking. This was Adrian worshipping every inch of her skin, making her feel cherished and valuable and safe. Later, wrapped in his arms with her head on his chest, Maya felt something settle in her soul. This was home. Not the penthouse or the city or even the bed they were lying in. Home was this man with his complicated morality and dangerous life and absolute devotion to keeping her safe. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. Adrian's arms tightened around her. I love you more. Not possible. Want to bet? Maya smiled against his chest. We could argue about this all night. I can think of better ways to spend all night. He proved his point thoroughly, and by the time Maya finally fell asleep, she was boneless and satisfied and completely, irrevocably his. Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting golden streaks across Adrian's bedroom. Maya woke slowly, her body deliciously sore in ways that had nothing to do with old bruises and everything to do with the man still sleeping beside her. Adrian's arm was draped across her waist, his breathing deep and even. In sleep, the hard lines of his face softened, making him look younger, almost peaceful. Maya traced the scar along his collarbone with gentle fingers, wondering about the story behind it. There were so many stories written on his skin, so many pieces of his violent life she was only beginning to understand. But she had time now. Time to learn every scar, every story, every part of him he'd kept hidden from the world. Adrian stirred, his dark eyes opening to find her watching him. A slow smile spread across his face. "Morning," he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. "Morning." Maya leaned in to kiss him softly. "How long until we have to face reality?" Adrian glanced at the clock on his nightstand. "Statement at the police station in 3 hours. After that, I have a meeting with my lawyer to discuss the fallout from last night. And then—" He pulled her closer. "Then I'm all yours for the rest of the day. Promise?" "Promise." They stayed in bed longer than they should have, wrapped around each other, neither wanting to break the spell of this perfect morning. But eventually, responsibility called. Adrian made coffee while Maya showered, and by the time she emerged dressed in jeans and a soft blue sweater, he had breakfast waiting. "You're spoiling me," Maya said, accepting the plate of eggs and toast. "Get used to it." Adrian's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, frowned, then set it face down. "Marco says Vincent's awake and asking for me." "You should go see him." "After the police station, after I make sure you're safe and this statement is handled properly." Adrian's expression was firm. "You're my priority, Maya. Always." The words settled warmth in Maya's chest. She'd spent so long being an afterthought in Ethan's life that Adrian's unwavering focus still caught her off guard sometimes. They arrived at the police station exactly on time. Adrian's lawyer, a sharp woman named Catherine, with steel-gray hair and sharper eyes, meeting them in the lobby. She briefed Maya quickly on what to expect, what questions to answer, and what to deflect, before leading them into an interrogation room where Detective Morrison waited. The statement took 2 hours. Maya recounted everything from the moment she'd heard about the hostage situation to walking into the warehouse to Constantine's threats. Morrison asked pointed questions about Adrian's business, about her relationship with him, about what she knew of his operations. Catherine shut down anything too invasive, but Maya answered honestly where she could. "You understand you could have been killed," Morrison said, not unkindly. "Walking into an active hostage situation without training or backup." "I understand," Maya said, "but the man I love was in danger. I couldn't just sit at home and wait." Morrison's eyes flicked to Adrian, who'd been sitting silently in the corner the entire time. "Lucky for both of you that Mr. Valente had already contacted us. Otherwise, this could have ended very differently." "Lucky," Adrian agreed, his tone suggesting he didn't believe in luck at all. They were released an hour later with warnings to stay available for follow-up questions. In the car, Maya sagged against the leather seat, exhausted. "That was brutal," she said. "You did well." Adrian's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "Better than most people would have under that kind of interrogation. Morrison's good at his job, but Catherine's better. She won't let them turn this into something it wasn't." "And what was it?" "A civilian caught in the crossfire of a criminal dispute who happened to be brave enough to try to help." Adrian's smile was slight. "The fact that you're also sleeping with one of the criminals involved complicates things, but that's my problem, not yours." "Your problems are my problems now," Maya reminded him. "That's how this works." "Is it?" Adrian's expression turned serious. "Because we never actually discussed what this is, what we are." "I told you I love you. You said it back. We spent the night together." "But Maya, I need to know what you want from this, from us." Maya turned to face him fully. "I want everything. I want mornings waking up next to you. I want to finish my degree knowing you're proud of me. I want to build a life with you, whatever that looks like. I want—" She paused, gathering courage. "I want forever, if you'll give it to me." Adrian's breath caught. "Forever is a long time." "Good, because I don't think I could handle anything less." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and Maya felt the promise in it. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "I have something I need to tell you," he said quietly. "Something I've been thinking about for weeks now." Maya's heart skipped. "Okay, I'm getting out. Not all the way, not overnight. But I'm transitioning the more dangerous operations to Marco and the others, keeping the legitimate businesses, selling off the rest. Within a year, maybe 2, I'll be clean." Maya pulled back to stare at him. "Adrian, you don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it just for you. I'm doing it for us, for the future we both want." His hands cupped her face. I meant what I said last night. You matter more than any of this, more than territory or reputation or power. And I can't ask you to build a life with me while constantly wondering if I'm going to come home in a body bag. What about the people who depend on you? They'll transition with me or find new leadership. Marco's ready to take over the operations I'm leaving behind. Vincent will help him. The crew will be taken care of. Adrian's expression was resolute. This isn't a snap decision, Maya. I've been thinking about getting out for years. You just gave me a reason to finally do it. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You'd really leave all this behind? I'd leave the whole world behind for you. They spent the afternoon at the hospital visiting Vincent, who looked terrible but alive. His face was a mass of bruises, his ribs wrapped, one arm in a sling. But he managed to smile when Maya entered the room. So you're the woman who made Adrian lose his mind, Vincent said, his voice raspy. Heard you walked into Constantine's trap trying to save him. It seemed like a good idea at the time, Maya said wryly. Boss said you offered yourself as trade. That took guts. That took stupidity, Adrian corrected from the doorway. But we've already had that conversation. Vincent's eyes moved between them, something knowing in his expression. You're keeping her then? If she'll have me. I will, Maya said softly. I am. Vincent nodded, satisfied. Good. About time you had something in your life besides business and revenge. Elena would be happy for you. Adrian's expression flickered with old pain at his sister's name. Maya took his hand, anchoring him to the present. They stayed with Vincent for another hour, talking about recovery and what came next. Before they left, Vincent pulled Adrian aside. Maya couldn't hear their conversation, but she saw Adrian's expression shift from surprise to something that looked like relief. In the car, she asked about it. Vincent's retiring, Adrian said. Says last night convinced him he's getting too old for this life. He's taking the generous pension I've been offering him for years and moving to Florida with his daughter. How do you feel about that? Relieved, actually. Vincent's been loyal for 15 years. He deserves a peaceful retirement, not a violent end in some warehouse. Adrian's fingers drummed on the steering wheel. Everyone I care about is leaving the life. Vincent's retiring. Marco's training his replacement so he can move into legitimate security consulting. And I'm transitioning out. It feels like the end of an era. Maybe it's the beginning of a better one, Maya suggested. Adrian glanced at her, his expression softening. Maybe it is. They drove to Maya's mother's house next, a decision they'd made that morning. It was time for her mother to meet Adrian, to understand where Maya had been and who she'd been with. Maya was terrified. Her mother's house was a small 2-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood, the lawn meticulously maintained, flower boxes bright with late spring blooms. Adrian parked on the street and turned to Maya. You ready for this? No, but let's do it anyway. Her mother answered the door on the second knock, her face cycling through shock, relief, and fury in rapid succession when she saw Maya. Where have you been? I've been worried sick. Her mother pulled Maya into a crushing hug. Don't you ever disappear like that again. Do you hear me? I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Maya hugged her back tightly. I should have called sooner. Her mother pulled back, her eyes finding Adrian standing respectfully behind Maya. And who is this? Mom, this is Adrian Valente. Maya paused, not sure how to explain. He's the one who's been keeping me safe. Her mother's eyes narrowed, taking in Adrian's expensive suit and careful posture. Safe from what exactly? Can we come in? Maya asked. It's a long story. They sat in her mother's living room, the space achingly familiar with its floral couch and family photos on every surface. Maya told her everything, Ethan's abuse, the night she'd texted a wrong number, Adrian coming to save her. She left out the criminal details, simply saying Adrian had connections that let him protect her. Her mother listened in silence, her face growing paler with each revelation. When Maya finished, her mother turned to Adrian. You saved my daughter's life, she said quietly. I did what anyone should have done, Adrian replied, but most people wouldn't have. Most people would have ignored a text from a stranger at 3 a.m. Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Thank you for being there when she needed someone. I'd do it again without hesitation. And now, what are your intentions toward my daughter? Adrian didn't flinch at the direct question. I love her. I wanted to build a life with her. I want to support her while she finishes her teaching degree and starts her career. He paused, his hand finding Maya's. I want to give her everything she deserves and more. Her mother studied him for a long moment. You're not a normal man, are you? I can see it in how you carry yourself, how you watch the room. Maya says you have connections, but I think it's more than that. Mom, Maya started. I'm not stupid, sweetheart. I know what connections means in this city. Her mother's gaze never left Adrian's face. The question is, are you dangerous to my daughter? I would die before I let anyone hurt her, Adrian said simply, including myself. That's not what I asked. No, it's not. Adrian sat back, his expression honest. My life has been violent. I've done things I'm not proud of. But I'm changing that life because Maya deserves better than a man who might not come home. Within 2 years, I'll be completely legitimate. That's my promise to her and to you. Maya's mother was quiet, processing. Then she reached over and took Maya's hand. Are you happy? She asked. Really, truly happy? Maya thought about morning coffee and late-night conversations, thought about feeling safe for the first time in years, thought about waking up next to Adrian and knowing bone deep that she was exactly where she belonged. Yes, she said, happier than I've ever been. Her mother nodded slowly. Then that's enough for me. But Mr. Valente, if you ever hurt my daughter, connections or not, you'll answer to me. Adrian's smile was genuine. I'd expect nothing less, ma'am. They stayed for dinner, her mother fussing over Maya and peppering Adrian with questions about his legitimate businesses. By the time they left, her mother had extracted promises of regular visits and Sunday dinners, and Maya felt like a weight she didn't know she'd been carrying had finally lifted. Your mother is terrifying, Adrian said as they drove back to the penthouse. She likes you. That was her liking me? I'd hate to see her dislike someone. Maya laughed, the sound light and free. She's protective, but she saw what I see in you, that underneath everything, you're a good man trying to do better. I'm really not, Maya. Good men don't have the kind of history I have. Good men make mistakes and own them. Good men change when they find something worth changing for. Maya's hand found his. You're good, Adrian. You just forgot for a while. The weeks that followed were a blur of change. Maya started her teaching program, diving into coursework and student teaching with the passion she'd buried for 3 years. Adrian began the slow process of legitimizing his empire, selling off operations and consolidating the legal businesses into something sustainable and clean. They moved Maya's things from storage into the penthouse officially, her books filling his shelves, her clothes hanging beside his in the closet. The space that had felt sterile and cold transformed into something warm and lived in. They cooked together, argued over movie choices, fell asleep tangled together every night. Ethan became a distant memory, a ghost that occasionally haunted Maya's nightmares, but had no power in her waking life. The last she'd heard, he'd moved to Arizona, was attending court-mandated anger management, and had finally faced consequences for his actions when a previous girlfriend came forward with her own abuse allegations. Maya didn't feel sorry for him. She felt free. 6 months after that first desperate text message, Adrian took Maya to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in Chicago. She wore a blue dress he'd bought her, the kind that made her feel beautiful and confident. Adrian wore a suit that probably cost more than her first car, and Maya still couldn't believe this was her life. Over dessert, Adrian reached across the table and took her hand. I have something for you, he said. Adrian, you already bought me this dress and these shoes, and it's not something I bought. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. It's something I made. Maya unfolded the paper to find legal documents. It took her a moment to understand what she was reading. Then her breath caught. You're establishing a foundation? The Elena Bennett Foundation, Adrian said, for women escaping domestic violence. We'll provide housing, legal assistance, job training, whatever they need to rebuild their lives. I've already secured funding for the first 5 years and hired a director. We open in 3 months. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You named it after your sister and me. 2 women who deserved better than they got. 2 women who were brave enough to fight for themselves when no one else would. Adrian's thumb brushed across her knuckles. I can't save everyone, Maya, But maybe we can save some. Maybe we can make sure other women don't have to text wrong numbers in the middle of the night, hoping a stranger will care. We, Maya repeated. You want me involved? I want you to run it. Once you finish your degree, once you've taught for a few years and have the experience you need. This is our legacy, Maya, proof that something good came from all the darkness. Maya couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She rounded the table and kissed him, not caring about the other diners or the restaurant's ambiance. Adrian kissed her back, and Maya felt the future unfold before them, bright and hopeful, and theirs. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian was smiling. Is that a yes? That's a yes to everything, the foundation, the future, all of it. Maya settled into the chair beside his rather than across from him. I love you, Adrian Valente. I loved you when you were a criminal, and I love you more now that you're trying to be better. I love you, Maya Bennett. I loved you when you were terrified and broken, and I love you more now that you're strong and whole. I wasn't whole until I found you. Neither was I. They finished dessert with Maya tucked against Adrian's side, planning the foundation and their future. By the time they left the restaurant, they'd sketched out programs for job training, legal advocacy, and transitional housing. Maya's teaching degree would prepare her to help women with children, to create educational programs that broke cycles of poverty and dependence. It was ambitious and hopeful, and everything they'd both been afraid to want. 1 year after the wrong number that changed everything, Maya stood in front of her first classroom as a fully certified teacher. 23 second graders looked up at her with varying degrees of excitement and terror. Maya smiled at them, remembering when she'd been that young, full of dreams about making a difference. She'd lost those dreams for a while, but she'd found them again in the most unexpected place. That afternoon, Adrian picked her up from school, waiting in the parking lot like he did every Friday. Maya slid into the passenger seat and kissed him hello. How was it? He asked. Perfect. Chaotic and exhausting and absolutely perfect. Maya kicked off her shoes. How was your day? Signed the papers selling the last of the operations. As of today, I'm completely legitimate. Just boring business consulting and security services? Maya turned to stare at him. You did it! You're really out! I'm really out. Adrian pulled her close. 20 years of that life, and I walked away. For you. For us. For the future we're building. Any regrets? Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. No. That life gave me resources and connections I'm using for good now. It taught me how to survive, how to fight, how to protect what matters. I don't regret what I learned. I just regret how long it took me to learn there was another way. They drove home. The penthouse was home now, truly, and changed into comfortable clothes. While Adrian started dinner, Maya pulled out her laptop and worked on curriculum plans. This was their life now. Quiet domesticity with a man who'd once been Chicago's most feared criminal. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Mom, Sunday dinner this week? I'm making your favorite. Maya, we'll be there. Adrian's bringing wine. Mom, tell him to bring the expensive stuff. I'm getting used to the finer things. Maya laughed and showed Adrian the message. He grinned and added expensive wine to their shopping list. Later that night, wrapped in each other's arms in bed, Maya thought about how far they'd both come. From a desperate text at 2:47 a.m. to this moment of peace and safety and love. From victim and villain to partners building something meaningful. Thank you, Maya whispered into the darkness. For what? Adrian's voice was drowsy, one hand tracing lazy patterns on her back. For answering a wrong number. For coming to save me. For giving me a reason to believe in second chances. Thank you for sending that text. For being brave enough to ask for help. For seeing past what I was to what I could become. Adrian pressed a kiss to her forehead. We saved each other, Maya. That's how this works. Is that what love is? That's exactly what love is. They fell asleep like that, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. Outside, Chicago sprawled beneath them, full of other stories and other struggles. But in this penthouse high above the city, Maya Bennett and Adrian Valente had found something rare and precious. They'd found home. 2 years later, the Elena Bennett Foundation opened its doors in a renovated building on the south side. Maya stood beside Adrian as they cut the ribbon, surrounded by local officials, donors, and most importantly, the first group of women the foundation would help. Maya's mother stood in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Marco and Vincent had flown in for the occasion, both men looking healthier and happier than Maya had ever seen them. Catherine, Adrian's lawyer who'd become a friend, was there with her wife. Even Detective Morrison had shown up, offering his quiet support for the program. As Maya gave her speech about second chances and rebuilding lives, she caught Adrian's eye. He was watching her with such pride and love that Maya's voice nearly faltered. This man who'd built an empire on fear and violence was now using every resource he had to help women escape the exact kind of danger he'd once embodied. People could change. Lives could be rebuilt. Wrong numbers could lead to right places. After the ceremony, Adrian pulled Maya aside. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "Adrian, we just opened a foundation. That's gift enough." "This is different." He pulled out a small velvet box. "This is personal." Maya's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a simple diamond ring, elegant and perfect. "Maya Bennett, you texted a wrong number and changed my entire life. You made me want to be better. You made me believe in second chances and redemption and love." Adrian took her hand. "Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me officially? Will you—" "Yes," Maya interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes." Adrian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as their friends and family applauded. Maya kissed him back, tasting joy and promise and forever. That night, back in their penthouse, Maya looked at the ring on her finger and marveled at how one desperate moment of fear had led to this. To love and safety and a future she'd never dared imagine. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "I'm thinking about that night, when I was locked in a bathroom, terrified, texting what I thought was my friend's number." Maya leaned back against him. "I was so scared. I thought I was going to die." "But you didn't." "No, because a stranger answered, because you cared about someone you'd never met, because you drove across the city to save me." She turned in his arms. "That wrong number was the best mistake I ever made." "It wasn't a mistake," Adrian said softly. "It was fate. Destiny, whatever you want to call it. You were supposed to text me that night. I was supposed to save you, and we were supposed to save each other." "You believe in fate now?" "I believe in us." "That's close enough." Maya kissed him, pouring every ounce of love and gratitude into it. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian smiled. "Ready for the rest of our lives?" he asked. Maya looked around the penthouse that had become a home, thought about the foundation they'd built together, the lives they'd change, the future stretching before them bright with possibility. Thought about the scared woman she'd been and the strong woman she'd become. Thought about the criminal who'd found redemption and the victim who'd found her voice. "Ready?" Maya said. "Let's build something beautiful." And they did. The wrong number that had carried a desperate plea for help became the foundation of their story. The stranger who'd answered became the love of her life. The penthouse that had been a hiding place became a home. And two broken people became whole by choosing each other every single day for the rest of their lives. In a city full of violence and fear, Maya and Adrian created something rare. A love story built on second chances, fierce protection, and the courage to believe that even in the darkest moments, hope could answer when you called, even if you called the wrong number.